Hello and welcome to another Chaos Theater Collective reading. And it seems to be we like the ocean a lot because this particular read is going to involve another very famous sea creature.
You might have heard of it.
It's very indie film though. You might not have, but
I'll leave, from the 70s.
Yeah, I'll leave the instructions of this indie film to our director Jonathan.
That's right. Please welcome.
Thank you all, and thank you, Hayden, and thank you, Valerie, for all your leadership. Another film. It's also the kind of blockbuster of the summer draw, and it's just a wonderful thriller. But it's also a movie with great dialogue. So I think whoever picked whoever picked Jaws, did a great job picking it for a Zoom, and I hope you agree. It's been a wonderful cast and wonderful to work with everyone. So we hope you enjoy our Chaos Theater Company reading of the film Jaws.
Beach night. Around a blazing bonfire, a group of young men and women, two young people, Tom, Cassidy, and Chrissy, break away from the others. Behind them, there is considerable necking activity. Tom and Chrissy are more serious. Tom makes a clumsy attempt at snaring Chrissy, cups her from behind. She squirms playfully out of his grasp. We discover he's not especially sober.
Hey, I'm with you, right?
Another part of the beach, night. Tom and Chrissy are separated from the others. Silhouetted against the fire, he is plodding along in the sand, winded. Chrissy runs down the slope of the dune towards the water, leaving Tom reeling atop the dune. As she runs, she is shedding her clothes. Tom is trying to trail her by her clothes, like Hansel following breadcrumbs through the woods, but Chrissy is way ahead of him.
Come on!
She runs headlong into the inviting sea, plunges cleanly into the water with a light whoops as the cold water sweeps over her. Then we see it, a gentle bulge in the water, a ripple that passes her a dozen feet away. A pressure wave lifts her up, then eases her down again, like a smooth, sudden swell.
Tommy, don't dunk me!
She looks around for him, finds him still on the beach, his feet tangled in his pants, which have dropped around his ankles. She starts to swim back to him. Her expression freezes. The water bulges, racing towards her. The first bump jolts her upright, out of the water to her hips. She reaches underwater to touch her leg. Whatever she feels makes her open her mouth to scream, but she's slammed again hard, whipped into an arc of about 8 feet up and down, submerging her down to her open mouth, choking off any scream she might try to make. Another jolt to her body, driving her under, so that only her hair swirls on the surface. Then it too is sucked below in a final and terrible jerking motion. Brody house, bedroom, early morning.
Landing reports conditions good, with stripers and jacks. The Coast Guard has no storm warning from Blackline to Cape Hatteras. A light chop of freshening winds continued clear and mild.
How come the sun didn't used to shine in here?
Because when we bought the house, it was fall. This is summer. Feed the dogs.
Right.
Do you see the kids?
Probably out in the backyard.
In Amity, you say yard.
The kids in the yard playing near the car. How's that sound?
Like you're from New York.
Give me 30 years, I'll get it.
The phone rings.
Brody. Yeah, what's up? Well, what do they usually do? Float or wash up? Really? Okay. I'll meet both of you at the beach in 20 minutes, okay? Okay.
Brody hangs up.
First goddamn weekend of summer.
Michael enters in bathing trunks with a towel on his shoulder, his hand washed, holding a Band-Aid ready for application. Ellen takes it and bandages the finger with care and affection.
There. What was that?
Michael heads toward the beach.
The office.
Be careful.
Here? You gotta be kidding.
He gives her a light kiss, starts to go with his cup.
Love you.
Hey, Chief, bring my cup back.
Amity Beach, day. Deputy Hendricks is searching the shore about 100 yards downwind. Meanwhile, Brody, in his casual police attire, and Tom Cassidy, still in the clothing we saw him in last night, walk down the beach. Brody fingers the missing girl's shoes, purse, and clothes.
Christy, what?
Worthington. Oh, no one ever died on me before.
And you picked her up on the ferry.
I didn't know her.
And nobody else saw her in the water?
Somebody could have. I was sort of passed out.
Think she might have run out on you?
Oh, no, sir. I've never had a woman do that. I'm sure she drowned.
You from around here?
Nah, Cambridge, Harvard. My family's in Tuxedo, New York, though.
You here for the summer?
Some friends and me took a house.
What'd you pay for a place just for the summer?
$1,000 a piece, something like that. There's 5 of us. We each kick in $100 a week for beer and cleaning, stuff like that.
Pretty stiff.
The sand dune. Brody tells Tom to wait at the foot of the dune and ventures up. Hendricks stops him with a wave off, saying something at the same time. Brody nods understanding and steps up cautiously and looks down. Kicking out with his foot, Brody sends dozens of angry horseshoe crabs into an escape frenzy, and they boil over the top of the dune and down its slopes. Cassidy takes a few uneasy steps backwards when Brody waves him over. Brody puts his hand gently around the quaking man's shoulders. Nodding, he starts to look down, 1 inch at a time. He looks. The jolt that assaults Tom is not unexpected. He falls backward in a sitting position as though shot. Nods yes, it's her. Brody turns and slides off the dune, stumbling close. We hear his breathing. He looks around, envisioning the week ahead of him, sees Chrissy's remains, incomplete from the chest down, horribly bitten. Interior Brody's office, day. Brody walks through the door and enters his office, holding a fizzing glass of Alka-Seltzer. Brody dips into file drawers for the appropriate forms. He slips behind his typewriter, putting paper in the machine with the effortless ease of years of practice. He's obviously no stranger to paperwork. He touch types, hardly ever looking down, checking his notes. Brody's just typed in the girl's name. He skips the space for cause of death, and just under it types the next of kin information he has collected from her wallet. The phone rings. Brody nestles the phone between ear and collar, listening as he turns to the typewriter.
Jesus, Santos.
Cause of death line rolls into place. The hammers punch out, shark attack. Brody gets up and moves hastily toward the door. Exterior, Amity Main Street, day. In the busy center of a town preparing for the big 4th of July weekend, Brody wends his way around sidewalk activity, purpose and haste in each stride. Angle, Amity Street. Past taverns and chowder shacks, past bleacher construction and July 4th posters, Brody enters hardware and sporting goods. He emerges with enough poster board, wooden stakes, nails, paint, and brushes to close every beach on the island. Exterior, Vaughn's Realty, day. Revealing Larry Vaughn, the mayor of Amity, exchanging anxieties with Ben Meadows and Coroner Santos and 2 other city selectmen. They come out in a group, reach the sunlight, and squint down the street as Brody careens around the corner and out of sight. Deputy Hendricks, laden with his arts and crafts, passes them on the street front.
What have you got there, Lenny?
We had a shark attack at South Chop this morning, Mayor. Fatal. Got it battened down the beach.
You told us to, Lenny.
I just found out about it, but there's a bunch of Boy Scouts in the water a couple of miles down the coast from where we found the girl. Avril Bay, thereabouts. Chief went to dry him off.
Take my car, okay? You, come with us, Lenny.
I've got all these signs here.
Come on, it'll give us time to think about what they're going to say.
They all crowd into a Cadillac Eldorado with Vaughn Realty signs on the doors. Beach at Avril Bay, day. Brody pulls up in the Amity police jeep. Behind him, Vaughn's Cadillac pulls up and skids to a stop. In it are Vaughn, Meadows, the doctor, maybe a selectman, and Hendricks, with his arms still full of sign material. Vaughn intercepts Brody. The others circle around him, effectively slowing his progress through the sand to the scouts.
Martin, are you going to shut down the beach on your own authority?
Do I need any more authority?
Technically, you need an instruction from the civil ordinance or a special meeting of the town selectmen.
Yeah, that's just going by the book. We're just a little anxious that you're rushing into something serious here. This is your first summer.
Tell me something I don't know.
All I'm saying is that Amity is a summer town, and we need summer dollars. And if they can't swim here, they'll use the beaches at Cape Cod, Long Island.
So we should set out a smorgasbord?
We're not even sure what that was.
What else could have done that?
Boat propeller.
I think possibly, sure. A boating accident.
Some weekend tramp accidentally goes swimming too far. He's a little drunk. Fishing boat comes along.
Doctor, you're the one who told me what it was.
I was wrong. We'll have to amend the report.
We've never had any that kind of trouble here.
I don't think you can appreciate the gut reaction people have to these things.
I was only reacting to what I was told.
It's all psychological anyway. You yell barracuda, everyone says, huh? What? You yell shark, and we've got a panic on our hands. I think we all agree we don't need a panic this close to the 4th of July. Now then, we've got a vandalism problem we ought to talk about.
The others surround Brody as Vaughn leads the way back to the cars, ad-libbing their problem with the little karate choppers. Hendricks puts the signs back into the trunk of Vaughn's Cadillac. Vaughn waves casually to the scouts and swimmers who are vigorously toweling off in the background. Amity Beach, day. A woman plunges into the ocean. Buoyant, joyful, she splashes away in abandon. From her, we pan off to reveal other cheerful bathers enjoying their last uncluttered weekend before the season starts in earnest. A man and his dog are romping at the water's edge. The man is throwing a stick out into the surf. The dog, a happy retriever, is bounding into the waves after it. A girl and her boyfriend leave their blanket and run for the water, playing tag, chasing each other, having a wonderful time. Angle on birthday party in the sand. Martin and Ellen Brody. Brody is sitting stiffly in a beach chair, scanning the beach with careful, cautious looks, eyeballing everything that's going on. Around their particular blanket and umbrella are a number of adults and their kids. The youngsters gathered to celebrate Michael's birthday. Ellen is dishing out ice cream and cake from a cooler chest to the raucous 10-year-olds. Michael's hand is still bandaged.
Looks like another big season. Gets worse every year.
And none of them from the island. Just a lot of bother.
Brody hears a shrill scream from the water. He stretches to look past the group to see what's happening out there. Brody's point of view, the water. The young lady is disappearing under the water, pulled under the waves by some force. She's shrieking. She pops right up again, riding the shoulders of her boyfriend, who pulled her under. She's laughing hysterically. Brody is unamused. Angle on another small boy playing alone. It's Alex Kintner and his mother nearby reading a novel. Alex is towing a funny rubber raft and headed for the water.
Alex Kintner, where do you think you're going?
Water, just once more, please.
Let me see your fingers. They're beginning to prune.
It's more.
Alex starts for the ocean. Behind him, Michael and his gang are also heading for the inviting waves. Brody is watching them go, his spine rigid with tension. As Alex and the boys hit the water, we see the man throwing his stick into the waves, his dog swimming strongly after it. Out beyond the kids and the dog, the large lady is bobbing about, out way too far, isolated from the other swimmers. Lots of little kicking legs, rafts with tasty arms dangling in the blue, slowly circling, favoring one raft, little Alex's. The Kintner boys' legs and arms are kicking and paddling, producing bizarre underwater vibrations of more than passing interest. Dog goes by, dog paddling along. Brody is half rising, looking out over the water. He scans the water anxiously.
Do you want the boys to come in? Honey, if you're worried.
A black object swims across the water. It's the dog, breasting against the surf. Michael Brody and his friends. He's trying to salvage a soggy piece of birthday cake, holding it above the water, paddling with his other hand. The bandage has come partway loose, and his cut is trailing in the water. Ellen is rubbing suntan oil on Brody's back, and he is allowing himself to relax partway. His eyes still nervously scan the beach in a constant surveillance.
You're very tight, you know. Right there.
Ow. Oh, you've got to be more careful in the water.
Michael has just been drenched. He splashes back. A big water fight ensues, and the boys splashing and chopping at the water, shouting battle cries and karate whoops.
Ah.
Alex is paddling around near them, but not involved with them. The man with the dog is whistling out to the ocean, looking for his dog.
Buster! Hey, Buster! Here, boy!
But there's no answer. No dog in the water. A huge splash explodes in the water near the gang, an eruption of foam and spray that stops everyone cold for a moment. They stop to see who is responsible.
Or splashing in the eyes.
Before anyone can answer, another kid, PJ, renews the battle, whooping a karate cry and slashing at the water with his hand like a little kung fu warrior, advancing through the waves. Matthew, splashing back, hits the water, which sprays up suspiciously pink. He stares at it, surprised. PJ's hands are dripping deep pink, the red matting his hair running into his eyes. He looks down. The boys are surrounded with a deep pink slick, their little bodies ringed by a spreading stain of blood.
Something in the water.
Hey, something in the water right there. Didn't anyone see it?
There's blood in the water.
Angle on Brody. He leaps to his feet, nearly knocking Ellen over, and starts for the water.
What is it?
Michael! Sean! Out of the water! Everybody out of the water! Michael! Get out!
Ellen snatches Sean up from where he's been playing in the sand. Other parents are calling their kids, hysteria mounting. People rush into the water, dragging their children and families bodily out of the ocean. The first kids coming out of the surf are frantically trying to wash the sticky blood off their bodies. The sight of the red sends the beach into a full panic. Close on Brody. He rushes into the water, up to his ankles, and suddenly stops, unable to move into deeper water. He's urging Michael out, holding his hands out to his son, who is slogging through the surf towards his dad. He stands there, immobilized by the water, nervously helping people out of it into the beach. Angle on Michael as he emerges from the water. Alex Kintner's raft washes in behind him, ripped in half. the water pink, the foam spreading the stain onto the sand as the wave breaks.
Alex! Alex!
Exterior, the county courthouse and county offices, day. A crowd of angry men and women throng the central hallway, their voices a babble of confusion. Many of them are gathered around a roughly lettered notice that has been posted on the town's official bulletin board.
Look, I've got to talk to her. This isn't a contest we want the whole country entering. Don't you agree, Meadows?
If I agree, she's going to advertise, and I wouldn't recommend the out-of-towner peppers. Emily could take care of this.
And I'm responsible for public safety around here.
Well, then go out tomorrow and make sure no one gets hurt. Everybody, could I have your attention? Since this affects all of us, I suggest we move into the council room, the council chambers where there's more room.
Interior council chamber, day. The crowd is thronging into the large room. Against the back wall is a large blackboard used for town business during meetings.
Well, here we all are. Now, does anyone have any special questions?
Yeah. Set. Was that 3,000 bounty on the shark and cash or check?
Now, that's private business between you brave fishermen and Mrs. Kintner. Chief?
I'd like to tell you what we're doing so far. These are some of the steps I've taken as chief of police.
What's going on with all the beaches, Chief?
I'll get to that in a minute. First, I plan to start our seasonal summer help early and to use shark spotters on beaches open to the sea. I'd like cooperation from local fishermen, and I've also contacted the Oceanographic Institute over on the mainland.
Now, there's no need to involve outsiders in our business, Martin.
Are you going to close the beaches?
Larry and I have also decided to close the beaches for a short time.
Pandemonium. Collective nerve has been touched.
Only 24 hours.
No, I didn't agree to that.
That is official business. There's a single summer.
Maybe it's better to close.
Two opinions have been expressed and the crowd takes sides vociferously, ad-libbing assent or dissent depending on the point of view held forth. All talk at once here.
The motel is all I own. You pull the plug on this town and I go down the drain with it.
I didn't raise my kids to be some fish's lunch.
We'll lose our shirts.
Nobody's seen a shark.
We'll lose business, we'll lose taxes.
Y'all know me. You know what I do for a living. I'll go out and get this bird for you. It's a bad fish. It's not like going down the pond chasing bluegills and tommycods. This fish swallow you whole. A little shaken, a little tenderizing. Down you go. You gotta get this fella and get him quick. If you do, it'll bring a lot of tourist business just to see him, and you got your business on a paying basis. The shark in that place is no pleasure. And I value my neck at a hell of a lot more than $3,000, Chief. I find him for $3. But I catch him. I kill him. 10. Yeah, that bastard is costing you more than that every day. You want to stay alive and ante up to 10? I'll play it cheap and be on welfare next winter. I'm going to kill this thing. Just a matter of whether I do it now or at the end of summer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quint. The selectmen will take your offer under advisement.
Brody's study at home, sunset. A riffly blur, color alternating with black and white. The dizziness stops on a book page showing a black and white rendering of 8 species of shark. The banner at the top of the page reads, "The known and reputed man-eaters." The riffling begins again, stops on a grisly photograph of scar tissue on 6 former shark victims. Riffling. Stop. Photograph of 5 ichthyologists posing on wooden stools, framed by the enormous jaws of a prehistoric shark from the family Carcharodon carcharius. Brody's reading glasses reflect a stack of 12 library books, all on the subject of sharks and shark attacks. The door opens and Ellen enters, quietly, in respect for Brody's mood.
Can you stand something to eat?
I'd love a cup of tea with lemon.
Mikey loves his birthday present.
Oh, where is he?
He's sitting in it.
Brody gets up, concerned, and joins her at the window.
Honey, he has it tied up to the jetty with a double knot.
Michael is sitting in the boat, but 2 of his young school chums are in the water, swimming around it. Brody opens the window and calls down.
Son, out of the water, now!
A boat's neat, Dad.
I want him out of the ocean.
It's 3 feet deep, Martin.
Michael, come inside!
It's his birthday present, and you closed the beach. Honey, I told him not to go in the water after what happened yesterday. I don't believe he'll ever do it again.
I told him not to go out until he memorized the handbook and the safety regulations until he was sure of himself.
Ellen's eyes drift down to the open book.
You heard your father. Out right now!
Ocean and Pier, night. Selectman Denherter and his buddy Charlie, a professional angler, row towards a tumble-down jetty that leads 50 feet out into the black water.
You want to call it a night after here?
It's only 2:30. What are you, tired?
Yeah, Charlie, I got my second wind 3 nibbles back.
Denherter hefts a blood-stained laundry bag from the wheelbarrow, revealing about 100 feet of coiled dog chain and a large patched inner tube. Charlie takes out a monster hook, and together they push the wheelbarrow onto the rickety pier that's only about 5 feet across.
Leg of lamb this time?
Screw the lamb. Let's shoot this sirloin.
We're blowing half the bounty on bait.
The splintered pier sways to and fro as the men reach the end and start to work. Charlie baits the hook with a massive chunk of sirloin, while Denherter secures the loose end of a chain to a skinny piling. Charlie then fastens the inner tube to the chain 5 feet from the end of the hook.
One more after this, and I'm going home.
Sit!
Denherter tugs the chain against the piling to prove that it is. Charlie heaves the bait. Splash! The inner tube follows, and both men eagerly watch as it floats seaward, the chain playing out from the wheelbarrow.
Try taking it right out.
Charlie lights his pipe and sits back against a piling. He turns on his transistor radio and loops one end around a fractured board.
You do this all the time. You do this all the time, right, Charlie?
20 years.
I can't believe that people pay money to go fishing. This is really dumb. This isn't even relaxing. It's just boring.
Close. Chain in wheelbarrow. Suddenly zipping out, faster and faster as both men straighten. Denherter is goggle-eyed.
Hey, what's this?
The chain is coming out so fast that it begins to drag the wheelbarrow to the end of the jetty. A section of chain tangles around the handle and flips the entire machine into the air. Both men watch dumbfounded as the inner tube, racing out to sea in a wake of white water, suddenly dips under.
Look at him take it!
I set the goddamn hook.
Let him do it! Go, 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 go!
It's then that the chain whips taut against the narrow pilings. A lineup of 5 decrepit 2x4 pilings snap with a resounding crack. The end of the jetty is yanked loose. Den Herder is flipped like a chip over the side and into the cold night water, where he manages to snag hold of a splintered timber. The severed section of jetty, a joined platform of footboards, is being dragged seaward with Charlie sitting dazed on top of it, his lit pipe still going.
Charlie, jump!
Charlie rolls into the water, sputters, turns to watch the flotilla of wood draw away. The end of the jetty makes a 180-degree turn and heads back in his direction.
Holy Jesus Christ!
Get the hell out, Charlie! Swim!
The jetty is getting closer. Suddenly, an enormous black fin breaks water like a periscope, making course corrections as it comes for Charlie. Den Herder jumps from piling to piling, almost losing his balance on his way to help Charlie. Charlie has reached the last pylon toward open sea, and his hands clamber for a hold, but the algae is too slippery, and his fingers keep sliding back. That's when the fin behind him seems to reach up to the sky, and Charlie manages, with Den Herder's desperate help, to make it safely to shore. The remains of the pier float belly up in the inlet. Close on the harbor master of Amity, Day. He is sitting in a little canvas folding chair, eating a bowl of Cheerios with milk and sugar, watching a panorama of ineptitude and greed unfold before his old seaman's eyes. The Amity Pier area is a minor madhouse. Out-of-state cars elbow local vehicles for parking space at the foot of the dock, and a parade of bounty-hunting townspeople, islanders, off-islanders, tourists, and others, shout and push their way onto the crowded pier, each carrying some bizarre or appropriate tool for the real or imagined capture of an unarmed shark of indeterminate size. Rods and reels, drop lines, crossbows, slingshots, harpoons, shotguns, rifles, nets, and tridents. Every fishing supply store and sporting goods house within 100 miles has been cannibalized to equip this weird array. Angelon, Brody, and Hendricks arriving on the scene.
So then Ben Herder and Charlie sat there trying to catch their breath and figuring out how to explain to Charlie's wife what happened to her freezer full of meat.
That wasn't funny.
Mrs. Kintner must have put her ad in Field and Stream.
Looks more like the readers of the National Enquirer.
Angelon boat rental, pier.
You should have made up all the usual range. I didn't come up here all the way. Your funeral shall be gouged by some Yankee cracker.
Prices go up June 1st every year. You want a nice, cheap, leaky boat, you go down to the Hamptons.
Boat rental man sees Brody. Making his way through the channel towards the dock is a sleek, expensive runabout with the name Fascinating Rhythm on the stern. It's professionally handled and rumbles in as it coasts in towards the dock area. Matt Hooper, a bearded, bespectacled young man with an intent look, is maneuvering the vessel, peering through his windscreen at the ragtag collection of seafaring loonies all around him. Brody sees something that makes him move towards the other side of the dock. We see him cross to a little boat built for 2 or 3 that is settling low in the water as a 7th man climbs in with his gear.
Hey, you know how many men that's supposed to hold?
Where is safe, right?
What you got ain't safe. You take some guys off or you don't go out.
Ben Gardner and his boat Flicka. Matt Hooper is gliding into the dockside, and Ben throws him a line to help make fast as he moors. It's a small island of courtesy in an otherwise discourteous mob. Hooper nods politely as he ties his boat up and steps onto the dock.
Hello.
Hello back.
He's standing near where Brody is finishing after his encounter with the chummers. Brody approaches Ben Gardner.
You going out too, Ben?
I might give it a try. That 3,000 bounty beats working for a living. Hey, we ready?
The mate nods yes and starts to prepare to get underway. Another dock area close by.
Excuse me, I wonder if you could tell me. Is that dynamite?
Okay, if that's dynamite, give it here or don't leave port.
Oh, come on, man. It's just fireworks. Sharks like fireworks. It attracts them.
Hand it over.
The man passes Brody a cigar box filled with dynamite sticks. Brody tucks the dynamite under his arm and continues down the pier. Hooper is still with him. All around them are two distinctly different breeds. The quiet pros like Ben Gardner, in well-worn, comfortable clothes with efficient, sensible gear, and the amateur crazies, with all manner of weapons and impractical, silly tourist clothing. Interior, dock shed, day. Brody's on the phone, talking to his office, trying to get Hendrick's attention. He throws a handful of washers at the window.
There's a fantail launch out there that won't make it beyond the breakwater.
You're telling me. I swear this town's gone crazy.
Officer, I wonder, could you point me in the direction where I can find Chief Brody?
Who are you?
Hooper, Matt Hooper, from the Oceanographic Institute.
Interior, morgue, day. Hooper is speaking into a sophisticated cassette recorder with a headpiece that leaves his hands free for measurement with a calibrator or calipers.
All right, let's show Mr. Hooper our accident.
The coroner slides open the drawer.
Victim 1, identified as Christine Wakens, female Caucasian.
The sheet has just been lifted, and Hooper stares down at the lump on the slab. He stops, turns off his recorder as emotions wage war with his senses. Rationality wins, and he turns on the recorder again.
Height and weight may only be estimated by partial remains. Torso severed mid-thorax, eviscerated with no major organs remaining. May I have a drink of water? Right arm severed from above the elbow with massive tissue loss from the upper body, portions of the nude bone remaining. Did you notify the Coast Guard?
No, it was local jurisdiction.
Left arm, head, shoulders, sternum, portions of rib cage intact. Please do not smoke. With post-mortem lacerations, abrasions, bite marks, and indicate typical non-frenzy feeding pattern of large non-squall, possibly canarnus, lamanus, or insurmus glandus. Gross tissue loss, post-mortem erosion on bite marks prevent detailed analysis. However, teeth and jaws of the attacking squall must be considered above average of these awards. Did you go out in a boat and look around?
No, we just checked the beach.
This was no accident. This was no boat propeller or coral reef or Jack the Ripper. It was a shark. It was a plain and simple shark.
Dock area, day. We open close on ugly, open shark's jaws. As the shark is hoisted up into the air on a gin pole hoist dockside, Meadows is seen passing with his secretary and a photographer from the Amity Gazette. A crowd of returning fishermen from the Armada and townspeople are gathering around the fish as it is hoisted tail up into the classic sports fisherman's trophy shot.
Jenny, get this out of state wire to the AP and the UP up in Boston, New York. And I have one pickup from the National, and call David Axelrod in New York and tell him it's from me and he owes me one. Let's get a picture.
Well, if one man can catch a fish in days, I guess 50 of these bojos can catch a fish in one day. Beginner's luck.
You did it. Did Ben Gardner catch this?
Men ad-lib, no, I caught it. I hooked him, etc.
Okay, everybody, I want a picture for the paper. Can everybody clear out of the way?
Hooper is measuring the shark.
Could you get the shot? Could you get the shot? Could you get
Who,
the
me?
shot, young man?
Okay.
The whole town and the Armada fishermen all line up in a classic high school graduating class shot, with the victorious fisherman kneeling in front and the rest of the Armada and townspeople arranged behind him. Hendricks holds up the beach closed sign in ironic victory. Brody spots the mayor coming towards the dock and detaches himself from the group to join him.
Larry, if you'd see these clowns leave, you'd never believe they'd come back with anything. But they got him.
Well, that's good. That's real good. Meadows getting pictures for the paper.
Yeah, sure he is.
The men who landed the monster are in a tight cluster, debating something with Hooper, who is dwarfed by the big beer bellies and ham-fisted hands all around him. It's probable we don't even see him. The men ad-lib, "What kind of shark is this?" And "It's a shark line, and in the movies they got sharks. It's a man-eater for sure. I bet it's a record breaker, etc."
Yeah, it's a tiger shark. Very rare in these waters. Definitely a man-eater.
Who's that young man?
Matt Hooper, the specialist they sent down from the Oceanographic Institute.
I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to these men for catching this monster.
What do you mean bite radius? What's that?
Teeth to teeth, right?
I didn't say this was the shark. I just said that this, I wasn't sure if this was the one.
What do you mean?
Well, there's hundreds of different sharks. Makos, blues, hammerheads, white tips. Any of them could attack. Look, shark digestion is low. We can open up this one and find out if what he has been eating is still inside.
That's disgusting. This is the largest, meanest, most vicious shark ever landed off Amity Island and a known man-eater.
Let's just cut him open and see what's inside.
Why not, Larry? Could get a positive confirmation that way.
Be reasonable, boys. This isn't the time or the place to do some kind of a half-assed autopsy on a fish. Ben, do you have all the pictures you need?
Plenty.
Wait a minute.
Now, I'm not going to stand here, watch this fish cut open and see some kid fall out onto the dock. Besides,
We see Mrs. Kittner approaching, dressed in black.
Chief, I'll take responsibility for this. Boys, cut this ugly son of a bitch down before he stinks up the whole island. Or tomorrow you and Carl take him out and dump him right in the drink.
Brody?
Brody nods. Mrs. Kittner slaps him full across the face.
My Alex was a beautiful little boy and you killed him. Do you know that? You knew there was a shark out there. You knew a girl got killed here last week. I just found that out. But you knew. You knew it was dangerous, but you let people go swimming anyway. You knew all of those things. And still my boy, he's dead now. And there's nothing you can do about that. My boy is dead. I wanted you to know that.
I'm sorry, Martin. She's in a sick, terrible state.
She's right.
Well, let's all get out of here. And anyway, this place stinks.
I'm going home.
Interior, Brody house, night, dining room. Brody and Ellen, Sean and Michael have all finished dinner. Brody's plate is untouched, a virgin meatloaf. His glass, on the other hand, is well used, with the remnants of a stiff scotch and ice. He is staring across the table at the youngest, Sean, who makes a face at him. He makes a face back. They play this game together for a few minutes.
Come here and give Daddy a kiss.
Why?
Because he needs it.
Sean gives Daddy the kiss.
Now get out of here.
Ellen, who is feeling progressively more left out with each passing moment, gets up abruptly and clears a few dishes. Brody is not letting her into his world for the moment, and it shows. There's a knock at the door.
On Brody residence? Hi, I'm Matt Hooper. Is your husband here? I'd like to talk to him.
So would I. Come on in.
Hooper enters. He's carrying a couple of bottles of wine which he picked up in town. He sits down near Brody.
Would you like something? Some coffee?
Ooh, is anyone having this?
He starts in on the meatloaf. As soon as someone has indicated, go ahead.
Dynamite. So, how was your day?
Swell.
They exchange a long look that evolves into a slightly desperate but shared laughter.
Here's one, here's a red wine, and one white.
They laugh some more. Ellen is again left out of it.
Real good, real good.
My husband tells me you're in sharks.
I wouldn't put it that way, but yeah, I love sharks.
You love sharks?
I do. Of course, I mean, I don't know. But you got a problem here. There's a shark just off the island somewhere.
How come you have to tell them that?
Excuse me, but what are you talking about? Didn't they catch the shark this afternoon? It was on the Cape Station News.
Well, they caught a shark, but not the shark. Big difference. I could have just proven it this afternoon by cutting that thing open and examining with the shark's context. Also, his bite was too small. I was just lucky enough to find this in town. It's a real estate. It's estate bottled vintage year.
Brody takes the fine wine and pours it into his drink glass, filling the tumbler to the top with ice cubes, diluted scotch, and the wine.
We ought to let it breathe or whatever.
Let's all have a drink.
He extends the bottle to Hooper, who politely accepts a token sip. He takes some for himself and offers some to Ellen.
You too, sweetheart.
Thank you.
You see your husband, the only other rational man on the island. Today after tomorrow, he'll probably be gone, and he'll be the only one here.
You're leaving?
Yep, going out on the Aurora.
Is that a boat?
It is the best funded research expedition to have ever studied the shark around the world in 18 months.
Like those Cousteau specials on television. I think it's for the kids, but I love them.
Well, better than the Cousteau, Chaperone with the computer's technology, telemetry, Defense Department funding.
I saw a show with sea otters and a big turtle. Mikey loved it. Made me promise to get him one. Will you live on the boat?
Yep.
Martin hates boats. Hates the water. On the ferry to the mainland, he sits in the car the whole way over. He's got this childhood thing. There's a clinical word for it.
Drowning. Let me ask you something. Is it true most attacks take place in 3 feet of water, around 10 feet from the beach?
Yeah, like the kid on the beach. I wish I could have examined that shark they caught.
Something else. Do most attacks go unreported?
About half of them. A lot of missing swimmers are really just shark victims.
There's a kind of lone shark called
Rogue.
Yeah, rogue. Picks out an area where there's food and hangs out there as long as the food supply lasts.
Yeah, it's called territorial. It's a territorial thing, but it's just a theory.
And before 1900, when people first started swimming for recreation, before public bathing and resorts, there were very few shark attacks because sharks didn't know what they were missing.
You say that.
Brody digests all this. There's a long pause.
Why don't we have one more drink, you and I, and then we go down and cut open that old shark and see for sure what's inside him or not.
Can you do that?
I am the chief of police. I can do anything I want. Want to come?
I'm so flattered that you ask.
Boat shed, night. Dark, spooky shed with shadows of boats and strange silhouettes of boat parts and scaffolding. At one end, the large symmetrical bulk of the shark's carcass lies on a tarp.
And it was Mount winter weekend, and she was homecoming queen, and I was her date. And then she got to the fact that her family had more money than my family, and maybe she was right. Her grandfather, well, great-grandfather was in mining, and my ancestors were Yankee shipbuilders. So we broke up, and I went home with some beatnik from Sarah Lawrence.
God, what stinks so bad?
Our friend, the shark.
They bend over the shape like 18th century grave robbers.
Always had a summer place in the water, Newport, the vineyard. So I figured I'd major in something I knew about. Oceanography, marine biology. It was that. Or design racing yachts like my older brother. Here we go. Up the old Elementary Canal. Hold the light, please.
We hear a slurp and a squish as Hooper produces a big knife and dips into the shark with a major incision.
We open the abdominal cavity and check that there's digestive tract. Simple.
What's that?
Half of a flounder, maybe a burlap bag. Pink head, aha!
What?
Just as I thought. He drifted up here from the Gulf Stream from Sun Mortars.
How can you tell?
A Florida license plate.
He ate a car.
No. No. Tiger sharks are the garbage cans of the ocean. They just eat anything, but this one didn't even eat people. There's nothing here.
What do we do?
Looking for a shark. Don't look on land. You go out and chum for him.
Chum.
That's one way to find him. Offer something, a little something to eat. Chum, blood, waste meat, fish, anything. He gets 10 miles away. If he's out there, maybe we'll get a closer look at him. It's a good time too. They're knife eaters.
Exterior, aboard Hooper's boat, night, tank. We see Brody looking sick and nervous, holding on anxiously as the fascinating rhythm moves slowly ahead, trolling at night. His glasses are already flecked with the white salt of dried seawater. He's wearing a life preserver. Hooper's at the wheel, charts spread in front of him, his eyes scanning the sea restlessly, checking the dials and gauges in front of him, as well as the electronic depth finding and fish finder gear mounted in the cockpit. A green glow shines from the instruments on his face. 2 closed-circuit TV cameras mounted below the hull flash their pictures onto monitors in the dash. In the aisle between the seats is a large container filled with unpleasant-looking bait. Hooper is long-lining for signs of shark and chumming.
That's the Cape Light. We're on the home stretch where he's feeding if he's still here.
What is all this stuff?
Depth finder, pharometer, sonar, closed circuit TV, fore and app, RDFs, single sideband, and 2 loose nuts behind the wheel.
Can you tell from that if a big man eater is around?
Sometimes. Look here. Something's big. Probably a school of mackerel come together and coming straight at it and staying right with us. Beeping and peeping.
Where did you get all this?
Bought it. Both sets of grandparents set trust funds for me. Stocks went up, so I don't even have to touch my principal.
You're at an institute full time? Or do you have a job?
It is a job. I'm not fooling around like some amateur. It's my life.
We gotta get back soon.
He hears something. His eyes widen. It is the bump thump of something scraping the hull.
Hey, what the hell?
It's what they've just run into. Flooded to the gunwales, loose debris floating around, a tangle of lines and gear looking like floating garbage in the cockpit. Hooper's light sweeps across it.
That's Ben Gardner's boat. It's the Flicka. Ben? Ben!
Hooper cuts his engines and drifts in. He scampers out to the bow of his boat and makes a line fast to the Flicka. Inside the cockpit of Hooper's boat. Hooper is examining the Flicka, tying a tow line to the two boats. The light picks its way across the ruined boat. The rail where a cleat once was is broadly scarred down to the raw timber, and the heady cleat has been torn bodily out of the hull, ripped out, screws and all.
What happened?
I want to check something. Hold my feet.
He sticks his head over the side into the black water.
Don't they have life jackets or something? Or like an extra boat?
They must have hit something.
Hooper moves to get a better look. The boat rocks in the swell, and from his movement, Brody clutches the rail in a death grip. Hooper goes below decks, getting into his wetsuit, buckling on a weighted belt, holding a mask and hot flashlight.
All right. He didn't have a dinghy aboard. I might have to go down and take a look at his hull.
Why don't we just tow it in?
We will. That's something that I gotta find out.
God, be careful for Christ's sake.
Hooper descends in a froth of bubbles. At first, we see nothing out of place about the Flicka, except that it is lying so low in the water. But as Hooper travels the bottom looking for damage, he comes across a jagged hole 2/3 of the way forward. The hole is about the size of a basketball, and the wood around it has been bashed and splintered. Hooper explores the hole with his hands, then takes the knife from its sheath and begins to dig at something. Whatever it is comes free in his hand. As he studies his find, his light wanders upward, pointing directly into the dark hole. Hooper looks up. Ben Gardner's dead face stares out through the hole in the Flicka. Hooper bumps his head in, trying to get away, seems to yell through escaping bubbles. We hear the gasping shout as a bubbling roar in the ears. His mask fills with water as he flails for the surface, and miscalculating, he bumps into the hull of his own boat. Shocked, dismayed, his system jangling with adrenaline shock, his hands open, and the object he pried loose from the hull drifts down and out, falling into the eternity of the ocean bottom. He finally bursts through the surface. He's gasping for breath, his whole body vibrating with urgency. The salt water in his lungs combines with the adrenaline in his blood to deprive him of speech.
You all right?
Oh, why? The gray way. Found a tooth buried in the wall. Must have been attacked. I knew it. Gardner's down there too, dead. I didn't see the mate.
No shark did that to a boat.
Jeez.
Hooper, despite his shock and surprise, is strangely elated, almost giddy with the wonder of his discovery.
Jesus Christ, a great white! Who would believe it? We're not talking about a shark. We're talking about a shark.
Exterior Island Highway. Billboard, day. Next to the Amity Welcomes You billboard is a group of selectmen. Vaughn, Meadows, Hendricks, and another deputy standing by with paint and brushes. Brody's wagon is there, along with a few other cars lined up as early weekenders and curiosity seekers slow down to see what's happening.
There's a kind of shark called a great white shark that every expert in the world agrees is a man-eater.
The situation here suggests that the great white has been staked out claiming new waters around Amity Island, and he will continue to feed here as long as there's food in the water.
There's no limits to where he can strike, and we've had 3 attacks and 2 deaths in the past few days. It happened like this before when a great white killed 5 swimmers at Jones Beach in Long Island.
A shark attack is stimulated by the kind of splashing activity that occurs wherever humans go swimming. You can't avoid it.
A 4th of July beach is like ringing a dinner bell, for Christ's sake.
I just pulled out a shark tooth the size of a shot glass out of the hull of a wrecked boat out there.
And we towed Ben Gardner's boat in, Larry. He was dead, and his boat was all chewed up.
Is that tooth here? Did anyone see?
I don't have it.
He lost it on the way up.
What kind of shark did you say it was?
Great white shark.
I'm not going to commit economic suicide on that flimsy evidence. We depend on the summer people for our lives. And if our beaches are closed, then we're all finished.
We have got to close the beaches. We have to get someone to kill the shark. We need non-corrosive mesh netting. We need scientific support. It's going to cost money just to keep the nuts out and save what we have.
I don't think either of you is familiar with our problems.
I'm familiar with the fact that you're going to ignore this thing until it swims up and bites you on the ass. There's 2 ways to solve this thing. You could kill it, or you could cut off its full supply.
And that means closing the beaches.
Come here. I want to show you something. Sick vandalism. Brody, that is a deliberate mutilation of a public service message. Now, I want those little paint-happy bastards caught and hung up by their Buster Browns.
That's it. I'm standing here arguing with a guy who doesn't want to be a hot lunch. Goodbye.
No, wait a minute. I need you.
Oh, out there, it's a perfect engine. An eating machine that's a miracle of evolution. It swims and eats, that's all. Look at that. Those proportions are correct. I know sharks.
You'd love to prove that, huh? Getting your name in the National Geographic?
Larry, we can reopen the beaches in August.
August? Well, tomorrow's the 4th of July, and we are going to open for business. It's going to be our best summer in years. And if you're so concerned about the beaches, well, you do whatever you have to do to keep them safe. But with you or without you, beaches are going to stay open this weekend.
Exterior South Beach, the 4th of July. Broad sandy beach is a mosaic of summer color as 1,000 vacationers practice fun in the sun, but not in the water. Hot dog stands and ice cream vendors are everywhere. Hooper is methodically patrolling in his boat. Tactically flanking a 300-yard apron of black repellent are 4 small watch boats. A tiny pleasure boat darts around the repellent line. Farther out, crossing back and forth, are patrol boats. To top it all off, a Coast Guard helicopter hovers and patrols 300 feet above.
And with me is the mayor of Amity, Lawrence Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn, how about those rumors?
How about them indeed? I'm pleased and happy to repeat the news that we have, in fact, caught and killed a large predator and supposedly injured some bathers here. Now, as you can see, it's a beautiful day. The beaches are open. Folks are having a wonderful time. Amity, as you know, means friendship.
Also here today is a marine biologist and research fellow from the Oceanographic Institute, Matthew Hooper. Mr. Hooper, what have you heard?
What I've heard and what I've seen are two different things. I believe there is a great white shark in these waters of this very beach, this very lovely beach. And he has killed and he will kill again.
And there you have it. Two different opinions by men of goodwill. The holiday crowd here at Amity seems to be making up its own mind.
That's 5 minutes, guys. Coffee.
Vaughn mops his brow and surveys the beachfront. At this moment, there's nobody swimming. He approaches a familiar selectman, nods hello, and squats beside him on the sand.
Why don't you get in the water?
Hey, I don't want to wash off my suntan lotion. I'll get a burn.
Nobody's going in.
On an adjoining blanket, a spirited Ruth Gordon type is sitting, watching brightly as her manservant, a polished Eric Harrison type, prepares some tea from a thermos.
Is there nobody going in? What a shame. Arthur, should I be going in?
If you'd like.
He puts down the tea service and leads her towards the water. At the edge of the sea, she stops, and he walks in.
It's very nice, not too cold, quite refreshing, very pleasant.
He ducks his head under for a final look around. His dripping head rises triumphantly from the surf.
No shots, milady.
She starts into the water. He takes her parasol, escorting her the rest of the way into the ocean.
This is marvelous, Arthur. I want to come back to this very spot. Will you make a note of where we are?
Encouraged by the sight of the woman and Arthur and Vaughn's quiet urgings, people begin to wander into the surf. A few at first, and then a rush as people plunge in and begin enjoying the pleasures of ocean bathing. The selectman goes in, his family follows. Vaughn watches it all, beaming. Underwater. As before, 400 pairs of enticing, yummy swimmers' legs, kicking like animated hors d'oeuvres. A group of youngsters playing with Michael Brody's dinghy. They are hauling it toward the surf.
Hey, Mikey, you're not going to the ocean with that, are you, son?
And look at it.
Okay, do me this favor just once. Use the ponds.
Dad, the ponds are for old ladies.
Just a favor for your old man.
Sure, Dad.
TV cameramen are packing up their gear. For them, it's a wrap. The copter spotter's voice overloads the speaker.
Captain to Daisy. Red 4, red 4.
Guns are up, heads turning everywhere.
Where?
When under your there.
The Coast Guard sonar operator spots it and pales. A slick black dorsal fin is slicing a wake toward the swimming area.
Jesus Christ! Shark!
Everybody out! Out of the water, please! Leave the water, please!
A lifeguard in the loft behind him begins blowing on his whistle.
No whistles! No whistles!
Dozens of bathers halfway out of the water turn to see. More whistles, and they start toward shore. We hear panicky voices ad-libbing. Shock! Look out! Etc. The loud hailers surrounding, more urgent now, and a contagious dread seizes one person after another. People begin screaming. Kids are suddenly separated from their parents. Others seem to forget how to swim. One myopic little girl has her glasses bumped off, and she begins to cry in blinded panic. Ellen Brody looks around, frantic. The riflemen in the boats are trying to get a bead, but too many civilians create a hazard. The Coast Guardsmen attempt to sever the repellent cord to gain access to the bathing area and the heaving fin. This is a confirmation of our worst dread, a full-blown, headlong water panic. Screaming vacationers claw their way over the bodies of the less able. Some literally attempt to walk over the bobbing heads and glistening backs of others pulling for dry land. 5 people try to mount a rubber raft, ugly reminders that each of us is number one. Brody enters, yelling into his walkie-talkie. Someone charges past him to help an old man out of the water. Dragging the helpless from the surf, tears well in Brody's eyes. The screaming is deafening. The TV unit is hopping up and down in rage and frustration.
Why did we rap? Get that! Somebody get that!
1,000 survivors pack the beach, standing absolutely still. A numbing cold sets in, and people shiver against each other. Muted sobs, whimpering, coughing. The 6 burly lifeguards huddle together like Cub Scouts. The monstrous black fin turns a slow circle as 2 Coast Guardsmen manage to cut their own repellent line. All boats converge on the dynamic fin. Men raise their guns to fire. Others ad-lib nautical commands in a uniquely calculated fashion. The fin slips sideways, revealing for the first time a tiny blue snorkel. Then appears the faces of 2 youngsters whom we will recall from the coven behind the dune. The fin bobs back, a beaverboard replica attached to a partially submerged surfboard. One youngster looks up and is greeted by 20 rifles and shotguns pointed directly at him, surrounding him on 3 sides. Some of the policemen start to lower their guns. The youngster begins to cry and feebly raises his hands in unconditional surrender. The narrow estuary leading into the half-mile is rough today. 2 children digging in the sand and unaware of the beach panic 100 yards away look up, and the little girl points. A black dorsal fin is cruising through the narrows and toward the busy pond. Hooper in his boat again sees it and jams his throttle forward. He steers with one hand, fumbling urgently for his walkie-talkie with the other. A circle of boats around the little pranksters, the crowds huddled on the beach, Hooper's boat suddenly arrowing towards the estuary, leaving a huge boiling wake. Vaughn catches Hooper's boat out of the corner of his eye. Curious, he follows its progress. Its urgency finally communicates itself to Vaughn, who begins a shambling trot across the dunes towards a rise overlooking the estuary. Vaughn gets there just in time to see the disaster. He watches, helpless, trying to shout, out of breath, stunned. Michael is tacking full sail in his boat with a friend, Kit. Kit is admiring the shark's tooth necklace around his own neck while Michael rubs some water on the scratches left by it. The fin, huge, black and real, crosses behind them. They are not yet aware. The fin seems to circle and return. It heads towards Michael's boat when another small dinghy gets in the way. A weekend novice just finishing a thermos of coffee when he's bumped. The entire boat is overturned. Michael sees the fin now as it collides with him, the entire bow lifting out of the water and rolling over on the port side. Michael and Kit are thrown head first. 3 heads in the water come up, sputtering, the fin between them crossing back. Michael freezes. The fin comes directly at him, growing into the sky, passing him so close he could touch it, but ignoring him as it follows the flailing and panicked weekend novice. Catches him. Michael watches. That all too familiar explosion of water, a choked off scream, the head and upper torso of the novice passing Michael swiftly as though being carried off, a current of blood trailing behind. A renewed cry of shark from the crowd.
Oh, God.
Block the ecstasy, the ectocrete. Block that thing.
The 3 boats racing to carry out the orders. The black fin repassing the 2 children, racing to get out. Hooper reaches the mouth before the others. The fin won't veer off. It smacks into the little vessel, bumping it aside. The fin is left racing into open water, blood pooling in its wake. Hooper leaping over the side, slogging towards Michael. A copter roars in, buzzing the shark, but too late. Brody and Ellen are pulling Michael out of the water as Hooper splashes up. Michael is conscious but in shock, his eyes staring at nothing.
He's in shock. Get blankets.
People gather and Brody snatches beach towels out of their hands. They cover Michael and carry him off the beach, feet raised above his head. Hospital. Day. Michael is wheeled out in the bed. Brody and Ellen are there. Sean is asleep in Brody's arms. Vaughn is waiting in the hall.
The doctor said it's okay, mild shock. He can come home in the morning.
Hey, big guy. You want anything from home?
Cars and a comic book.
Here,
Brody gives the baby to Ellen.
take him home.
Home? New York?
No, home here.
Ellen exits.
Got a pen on you? Hey, you got a pen on you.
Why?
There's only one thing you're good for anymore. Signing a damn voucher. Here. It's an authorization to employ a contractor.
I don't know if I can do that.
I'm going to
without-
hire Quint to kill the fish. The shark, whatever. I want to see that shark dead.
Maybe we could save August.
Get it. Summer's had it. Next summer's had it. You're the mayor of Shark City. You wanted to keep the beaches open. What happens when the town finds out about that?
I was acting in the town's best interests.
The best interest in this town would be to see that fish belly up in the water with a hole in his head. You do the right thing. You authorize me. Right here. Whatever it costs.
Martin, my kids were on that beach too.
Just sign it, Larry.
Vaughn signs, and Brody takes the paper and exits. Quint's house, day. Brody and Hooper are approaching Quint's house. They enter through the big wooden doors into another circle of hell. Smoke and steam from two big oil drums sitting over fires fills the air. Quint is grinding pieces of pilot whale into chum. The whale lies bloody on the floor, its ruined carcass adding to the stench of other sharks being boiled in the drums, their tails suspended in the air. Diesel fumes and decay fill the air, and tools, ropes, broken bits of iron and engine parts litter the floor. Wall hangings of rope and floats, along with buoys, barrels, tackle, and gear all conspire to frame the killing floor.
This has got to be one big violation.
This is quite a place.
Keep your hands off my stuff. Did you bring a check?
What?
Cash? Or do we do this on a handshake and a promise?
I'm authorized by the Township of Amity to hire you as an independent contractor. We'll meet your price, $10,000.
And my regular daily rate, 200, or whether we catch him or not.
You got it.
And incidental damages, if any.
You got it.
And you get the mayor off my back with his zoning crap. Nobody tells me how to run my property.
You got it.
And a case of apricot brandy at you buy the lunch.
2 cases and dinner when you land.
Yeah, try some of this. I made it myself.
Brody tastes.
Used to swimming with bow-legged women.
You're gonna need an extra hand.
This is Matt Hooper.
I know who he is.
Boys from the Oceanographic Institute.
I've been to the sea. I've been to the sea since I was 12. I crewed 3 transpacks.
Transplants?
And an American Cup trials.
I'm not talking about day sailing or pleasure boating. I'm talking about working for a living. Sharking.
And I'm not talking about hooking some poor dogfish or some sand shark. I'm talking about a great white shark.
Are you now? I know about porkers in the water.
Quint throws him some rope.
Here, tie me a sheep shake.
Hooper ties the knot effortlessly.
Let me see your hands. City hands. You've been counting money. If you had a $5,000 net and 2,000 worth of fish in it, and along comes Mr. White and makes it look like a kitty scissors class has gone to work on it and made paper dolls. If you ever worked for a living, you'd know what that means.
Look, I don't need any of this working class hero bull crap, okay? Some party boat skipper who's killed a few sharks.
Hey, knock it off. All right. I won't have to listen to this while we're out there.
What do you mean we?
It's my charter, my party.
All right, Commissioner. But when we're on my ship, I am master, mate, and pilot. And I want him along for ballast.
You got it.
Exterior, Quint's dock, morning. The mate is loading. He hands Quint the items on his checklist as Quint takes them aboard.
Lengths of 1/2 inch, 20 number straight gaff, flying gaff, stall rope, ice splice M1, 20 clips, pliers, irons.
As he talks, we see Hooper coming down to the dock. Wheeling a wagon behind him are 2 long-haired research assistants from the Institute. On the wagon, among other things, is a big shark cage. At dockside, Hooper checks his list as he signs for his issue.
Power head, CO2 darts, hypo, regulator, tank, step gauge, camera, extra magazines, and cage.
You got everything, Master?
All of it. Thank Dr. Miro for me. And tell Borak I'll catch up with them in New Zealand.
This is actually a killing expedition?
Eye for an eye, you know.
Hey, Squirt! You want to slow this gear or you want me to use it for ballast? It ain't good for much for a bait.
I'll see you. Tell Dorothy hello.
Hello, Junior. What are you? Some kind of half-assed astronaut? Jesus Christ, when I was a kid, every little squirt wanted to be a harpooner or a sword fisherman. Hey, what do you got there? A portable shower?
Anti-shark cage.
Who's inside? You or the shark?
Hooper indicates me.
You're in the cage. The cage is in the water. The shark is in the water too. You're in the water with the shark.
Hooper nods again. Quint sings farewell and adieu to you, fair Spanish ladies.
Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for the sail back to Boston. And never more shall we see you again.
Coming aboard.
Ellen is carrying a little plastic shopping bag. He's wearing shiny new foul weather gear, bundled up, sweaty, uncomfortable. She gives him as good a hug as she can manage under the circumstances.
Did you take your Dramamine? Here.
She straightens his coat and gives him a shaving kit to carry aboard with his toiletries. From the deck, Quint whistles derisively.
Hey, hurry up, Chief! Daylight's wasted!
Is that him?
Colorful, isn't he?
You gonna be all right?
And none to worry about. I'll survive this.
I'll see you back soon. There's an extra pair of glasses in your black socks, and there's some suntan lotion and Blistex in your kit.
Brody nods and holds her hand for a wordless moment.
Here is the body of Mary Lee. For 15 years, she kept her virginity. Not a bad record for this vicinity.
Yo-ho and a bottle of rum.
What'll I tell the kids?
How I went fishing.
They laugh together and exchange a short, fierce kiss.
Cast off the bowline! Now you stern!
Its diesels chugging, the Orca pulls away from the pier. Aboard the Orca, Quint has set a course out towards the open sea. He lashes the wheel and jumps down to address Hooper and Brody, who are standing together in the stern.
Front bow, back stern. Starboard, aloft, below. It's not a staircase, it's a ladder. It's not a rope, it's a line. And if you don't get it right, I'll throw your ass out of that little round window. Now, hear this. You're aboard the fishing vessel Orca. And I'm our captain, master, mate, and owner. You'll jump when I holler. We're doing a job here, and Christ, I ain't got time to watch you birds get your ass aboard. Ship with me and you'll do all right. Cross me and I'll slap you upside your heads. Now, if you boys are ready, let's go fishing.
He starts moving gear around, preparing chum barrels, setting hooks. Hooper gives him a hand. Brody stays out of the way. Exterior, the ocean, noon. It is quiet as the Orca drifts along in the current, a wide chum slick spreading behind it. Quint spots something in the water, a small blue shark attracted by the chum. He rigs a small pole with a piece of bait and throws it over the side.
Here's something for you.
The shark takes the bait. Quint brutally and efficiently sets the hook and reels the shark alongside. He hauls it part way out of the water and sticks it with a gaff. Shark is wriggling on a hook, tail rope dropping on him. Gaffed and bleeding, the shark is immobilized by Quint's practiced hands. He takes one of his big knives and poses for a moment beside the struggling fish.
Yeah, those greedy sons of bitches will eat their own guts.
He slices into the shark's underbelly, and we hear the sound of entrails plopping into the water. Brody is almost retching, and Hooper is just displeased. Angle on the water. The gutted shark is swimming in circles, biting at its own entrails. Fins closing in on the wounded shark.
Go ahead, you cannibals. Tell them where you got it.
A boil of water and the flash of fins and teeth as the local sharks erupt in a feeding frenzy, jaws snapping, blood spewing, a sudden display of the fury and blind predatory drive of the fearsome species.
What's that supposed to prove?
Just a little appetizer. I want our porker to know we're serving. I want to put some iron into that big yap.
The Orca is drifting in neutral. The ocean is like gelatin, the sun sucking heat waves from its surface. Brody at the stern, handkerchief on his head to protect from further sunburn, has been handed the slimiest job on a shark hunt, the ladling out of chum. There are several empty chum barrels. A flag buoy bobs in the wake of the boat. Another waits to be tossed over the side. Brody is reeling with nausea. He opens his overnight kit and takes out a handkerchief and some Old Spice aftershave. He pours the aftershave into the cloth and presses it to his nose. Hooper is also in the stern.
Keep that chum line going. We've got 5 good miles. Don't break it.
Who's driving the boat?
Nobody. We're drifting with the current.
Nothing, 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 nothing.
Hell, in the old days, we went out with good charts, good sounded lead, and a damn good compass. Nowadays, these kids are afraid to go out without depth finder, radar, radio, electric toothbrush, every stupid thing.
Quint opens a can of beer and drains it in one long pull, crushing the empty and throwing it over the side. Hooper drains his coffee from a styrofoam cup and cracks it in his hand with a silly plop. He stows the pieces in an empty chum barrel.
Get a fresh barrel.
Brody goes to unlash a fresh barrel, but can't figure out the knots. He finally tugs on a piece of rope and it all comes loose. Barrel, shark cage, and most important, Hooper's tanks, clattering and rolling on the deck.
Watch it. Compressed air. You screw around with these and boom! Careful, huh?
Real fine stuff, but it won't mean a thing to Mr. Whitey, of course. He didn't go to schools in electronics. He was born with what he does best. Eat. He's a real swimming appetite. Of course, he might eat this stuff, but then I've seen him eat a rocking chair, too. Next time, ask me.
Later, the men are in different positions on the boat. Hooper on the flying bridge, Quint in the stern, Brody hanging over the rail, puking. Quint takes a wide red strip of whale meat and a gnarled squid from the garbage pail and searches for a number 2 hook rig. He holds up a strip of whale.
That's pilot whale, isn't it?
It ain't a Big Mac. The expert don't approve. What do you think? You're closer to the situation.
Why are we out here when the shark's back there?
Because that's where he lives. You gotta think like they do.
Easy for you. They got a brain the size of a radish.
Now, if he weren't around, we'd have hooked something else by now, wouldn't we? But he scared them all away. Big lonesome son of a bitch.
Later, Quint at ease in his chair, Brody near him, practicing tying knots. The line starts to move a few feet at a time, and both men watch. Then the line whizzes off the reel. Brody jumps up. Hooper springs to the deck.
He'll gulp it down now.
Quint tightens drag and strikes. The line goes whizzing out. Brody runs to Quint's side. Hooper springs up to the flying bridge.
Got it?
Get behind me, dummy! Reverse her and turn! He's taking too much line! Wet my reel, quick!
Brody goes to get water. The boat surges. He staggers. Brody pours water on the screaming reel, nearly unspooled now. Hooper's turning the boat around and the line changes direction.
Starboard, for Christ's sake! Hey, you farmer! Half speed there!
Aye, aye, sure. Stand by to repel boarders. Poop the mainsail. Arr, Jimbo.
Again, the line changes direction, down this time.
Neutral! Where the hell is he going?
Quint reeling in like mad.
Oh, this ain't fooling me.
Rod arcs down with a surge.
Yeah, sure. Try it.
He ad-libs brief instructions to Brody as the line rushes out and there's less tension. Quint is horsing up and down, reeling in.
Making believe it's easy now.
The line is almost vertical. He reels in suspiciously.
Getting ready to run again? No? No? What's he playing here? Put the gloves on! Yeah. Let's see who's gonna tease who now.
Let's just go. Let it go. Don't waste your time.
Down here, Hooper!
I don't know what it is, but it's not a shark.
Hey, look. You may be a big yahoo in the lab, but out here you're just supercargo. And you do as I say, or you can take your gear and backstroke home. Now get down here.
The leaders show above the waterline.
The wire showing.
Unbuckle me, fast. Grab the leader. He ain't normal, this one. They never.
It's too erratic. Might be a marlin or a stingray. It's a game fish.
Hooper snaps the rope onto the leader and holds on.
Watch your hands. Grab onto this.
Before he realizes what's happening, Brody is clumsily clutching at the big rod, appalled. Quint skips away for a flying gaff. He picks one, turns, and that's when the leader lashes free, sending Hooper crashing backward in a serious fall, and the rod whips at Brody's forehead, drawing blood. Quint snatches up the rod and reels in. The wires have been bitten through.
A marlin or a stingray, huh? Don't ever tell me my business.
I'm okay.
Fasten the pole.
What's the point with the hooks and lines?
Tell me my business. Quarter mile that way. Full throttle.
How? If they're going to keep on breaking?
What I do is trick him to the surface. Got that? Then I can jab him, understand? Think I'm gonna haul it in as a catfish like everybody does. Over there.
What do you see?
At least you handle the boat all right. All right, stop here. Cut the engine.
Hooper cuts the engines as Quint swings nimbly down. He stands stock still on the main deck, motioning Brody to be silent. Then picking up the newly rigged rod, Quint soft shoes it over to the chair. About to sit down, he freezes. Quint looking hard at something, Brody staring, eyes widening, Hooper moving in, surprised, interested, fascinated. We see the shark. Quint puts his rod away and stares at it, and stares and stares. Hooper is the first to break the silence.
Feet. If it's an inch.
Feet. And 3 tons of them there.
Hooper's nearly beside himself with a strange ecstasy. He leaps toward his gear.
I never saw one that big.
What do we do? Get some help? Radio in?
Quint ignores him and moves off into the pilot house, where he swiftly takes out his green case and opens it to begin to assemble something inside it. Brody is alone on the deck with Hooper.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hooper is contained in his own excitement. He has finally come up with what he was looking for, an expensive Nikon through which he peers intently at the shark alongside. He is talking half to himself as he fine-tunes the rangefinder and focus. He is squeaking and bubbling in an unsuppressed emotional boil.
There's a formula. Girth about 150 inches. Squared divided 800. Son of a bitch. They're not even believe it. Divided by 2,003 tons. Ha, you're right, you old Bart. 3 tons. Come on, baby.
Quint in the pilot house is assembling the greener harpoon gun, deftly screwing on the long wooden stock, the heavy steel barrel, and big shaft with the wicked barbs, the frame all rigged with line. Past him on the deck, we can still see Hooper. As Quint is working with the gun, the radio suddenly squawks into life.
Germany Port Light Station to Orker. This is Germany Port Light Station to Orker.
Quint snaps the mouthpiece to his lips.
I have Mrs. Martin Brody here.
Put her on.
Push this? Oh, it's working. Hello, Martin?
This is Quint, missus.
I just wanted to know if you were all right. The Coast Guard let me use their radio. Is Chief Brody there?
He's busy.
Well, is everything all right?
Just fine, missus. We'll be back soon. Everything's fine. We haven't seen anything yet. Orc out.
He snaps off the radio and, for good measure, pulls the plug from the power source. The big shark is slicing through the water just below the surface, its fin high, the big gray back glistening, the teeth gleaming.
Damn it. I needed something in the foreground to get me some scale. Martin, stand there. No, to your left.
He is positioning Martin frantically, trying to include Brody, the shark, and the orca in the same frame. Quint finishes with the gun and, as a final gesture, snaps an explosive cartridge into the breech. He empties a box of cartridges onto the table, snatches up a big handful and drops them into a pocket and heads out on deck, bound for the bow pulpit. On deck, Quint appears with a harpoon gun. He throws one end of the line to Hooper.
Here, rig this to the forward keg up there.
He indicates the barrels on the foredeck.
Get up there and steer her. Follow my hand and hold her steady. I gotta get a clean shot at that porker's head.
Quint moves up toward the bow, and Brody goes up to the flying bridge to take the wheel. Hooper starts for the foredeck, but stops to rummage in his kit, throwing gear around as he desperately hunts for something.
Hurry up! Rig the line!
Hooper finds what he's looking for, a small, powerful strobe unit, waterproofed, a miniature signal beacon. He triggers it, and it begins to pulse with a light we can see even in the sun. Hooper scampers to the foredeck and begins to rig the light to the first barrel as the shark begins to surface near the bow.
Come to port. Watch my hand. Steady now.
He guides Brody with hand signals, and Brody tries urgently to get it right, not to oversteer, to try to hold the big boat with its throbbing diesels on the course that Quint is indicating.
The line, man, the line!
Hooper is rigging like crazy. From the flying bridge, Brody's steering foreground, Hooper on the foredeck with the barrels, Quint leaning out over the pulpit, the gun at the ready, the shark crossing inexorably in front of them. Close on Quint, agonizing over his shot as the shark approaches, glancing back to see if the line is properly rigged and Hooper is clear of it.
Get clear, damn you!
The shark is in position. Hooper shouts a moment too late.
Clear!
Quint fires. The harpoon slams into the shark behind his head, halfway along the back in front of the big dorsal fin.
Jesus H. Christ on a crutch!
Insert coiled rope and barrel. The rope snaps out in a blur of violent motion. Hooper jumps back and the barrel leaps out of its rack, pulled by the line rigged to the harpoon. It bounds forward and into the sea, past Quint, who's already reloading, mounting another steel shaft. In the distance, the barrel bobs and skips violently in the water, dragged by the shark in its merciless moves.
Now you've done it, you pissant! Stop and rig a goddamn tinker toy to my gear! Let the bastard fight the keg for a while. He can't stay down with that on.
Hooper snatched the wheel and is ramming the throttle forward as he spins the wheel in a frantic 180-degree turn.
Rig it out, keg. I'm bringing her around.
His eyes dart about the ocean looking for the barrel as he hot dogs the ship around in a violent expression of his own disgust with himself.
God damn it, we had him. I'm coming about.
He spins the wheel again, trying to make the big boat handle like a Formula Speedster. The dicks tip and the rigging sways under the sudden strain. Brody is caught unaware and tumbles off his feet, sliding across the deck to fetch up against a wall. The M1 rifle is close to his hand. He stares at it. Hooper's anguished, intense, trying to find the shark, spinning the wheel, compounding his error, tipping the boat in rolling turns as he crosses his own wake. Quint has turned his back to the sea and is in the pulpit looking up at Hooper, staring at him, excluding everything else. As Quint folds his arms and stares at Hooper, we realize the sun is going down and it's getting dark.
Why don't we go in? Get another crack at him tomorrow.
Got a barrel on him. We can't lose him. We stay out here until we find him.
Hooper throttles back, and the roar of the diesel subsides, and the boat resumes an even keel, slowly circling the ocean.
Let's call in. We can radio and have a big boat here in an hour.
You hired me, remember? It's my 10,000. It's my shark.
Open sea, night. Throttled back to slow ahead, the boat circles the water endlessly, staying over the shark like an avenging angel. Its running lights gleam in the night, and a glow lights the interior of the pilot house. A bright strobe glints on the water, winking once like a firefly. Pilot house, night. Brody and Hooper at the table, Quint at the wheel, keeping his eye on the light.
He's up again.
He corrects course slightly to keep the barrel buoy in sight. Hooper is sitting at the table, morose. Brody is staring at a couple of open cans of beans or beef stew or some other crappy rations Quint has on board. Dirty spoons stuck in the open cans show us this has not been a formal dinner. Quint fumbles on the chart shelf and produces some of his home brew. He takes a pull and hands it to Hooper, who takes a double. Brody touches the fresh abrasion on his forehead where the fishing rod caught him. Quint bends forward and pulls his hair aside to show something near the crown.
That's not so bad. Look at this. St. Paddy's Day in Knock-o'-Nolans in Boston, where some son of a bitch winged me upside the head with a spittoon.
Look here. Steve Kaplan hit me during recess.
Yeah. Wire burn. Was trying to stop a backstay from taking my head off.
Moral eel bit right to the wetsuit.
Yeah. Face and head scars come from amateur amusements in the bar room. This love line here. Yeah, that's from some crazy French who come after me with a knife. I caught him with a good right hand right in the snot locker and laid him across the sweet peas.
Ever seen this? Bull shark scraped me while I was taking samples.
Yeah, nothing, a pleasure scar. Look here. Slammed with a thresher's tail. Looked just like somebody caressed me with a nutmeg grater.
Brody is drawn into their boasting comparisons. He secretly checks his own appendix scar, decides not to enter the contest.
I'll drink to your leg.
And I'll drink to yours.
They toast each other. Brody looks around, sees the strobe blink once through the darkened window.
Here, wait a minute, young fella. Look. Just, look. Don't touch.
He starts lowering his pants to reveal a place on one hip where the tissue is scarred and irregular.
Bitten by one of those bastards but twice. Your first and your last.
I think I can top that, mister.
Hooper's pulling at his shirt, trying to get it off, but it's tangling its sleeves and won't come undone.
Give me a handy. I want to show you something. Right here. Mary Helen Moffat broke my heart. Let's drink to Mary Ellen.
Here's to the ladies. And here's to their sisters. I'd rather have one miss than a shipload of misters. Yeah. Look at that. Bayonet, Iwo Jima.
On middle appendix.
I almost had him.
What's that one there?
Tattoo. Had it taken off.
Don't tell me. Death Before Dishonor. No. Mother. Simplify. Don't turn on me. Come on. What?
USS Indianapolis. 1944.
What's that, a ship?
You were in Indianapolis? 45?
Yeah. The USS Indianapolis, June 29th, 1945. 3.5 minutes past midnight. 2 torpedoes from a Japanese submarine slammed into our side. 2 or 3. We were still under sealed orders from delivering the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. We was going back across the Pacific from Tinian to Ledo. Damn near 1,100 men went over the side.
The lifeboats was lashed down so tight to make the bomb run, we couldn't cut a single one adrift. Not one. There was no rafts. None. That vessel sank in 12 minutes. Yes, that's all she took. We didn't see the first shark until we'd been in the dorsal to the tail. What we didn't know, well, of course the captain knew, I guess some officers knew, was the bomb mission had been so secret. No distress signals were sent. What the men didn't know was that they wouldn't even list us as overdue for a week. I didn't know that. I was just an officer, just as well, perhaps. Some of us were already dead already, in the water, just hanging limp on their backsides, in our life jackets, and several already bleeding. And the 300 or so laying on the bottom of the ocean. As the light went, the sharks came cruising. We formed tight groups, somewhat like squares in an old battle. You know what I mean? So that when one came close, the man nearest would yell and shout and pound the water, and sometimes it worked and the fish turned away, but other times that shark would just seem to look right at a man, right into his eyes, and in spite of all the shouting and the pounding, you'd hear that terrible high screaming, and the ocean would go red, then churn up as they ripped him. Then we'd reform our little squares. By the first dawn, the sharks had taken more than 100. Hard for me to count, but more than 100. I don't know how many sharks, maybe 1,000. I do know they averaged 6 men an hour, all kinds, blues, makos, tigers, all kinds. In the middle of the second day, some of us started to go crazy from the thirst. One fella cried out, he saw a river. Another claimed that he saw a waterfall. Some started to drink the ocean and choked on it. And some left our little groups, our little squares, and swam off alone, looking for islands, and the sharks always took them right away. It was mainly the young fellas that did that. The older ones just stayed where they was. That second day, my life jacket just rubbed me raw, and there was more blood in the water. Oh, on Thursday morning, I bumped up against a friend of mine, Herbie Robinson from Cleveland, a bosun's mate. It seemed he was asleep, but when I reached over to waken him, he bobbed in the water, and I saw his body upend because he'd been bitten in half beneath the waist. Well, Chief, so it went on. Bombers high overhead, but nobody noticing us. Yes, suicides, sharks, and all this going crazy and dying of thirst. Noon the 5th day, Mr. Hooper, a Lockheed Ventura swung around and came in low. Yes, he did that. That pilot saw us. And early evening, a big fat PBY came out of the sky and began the pickup. And that's when I was most frightened of all. And I was just waiting for my turn. Just 2.5 hours short of 5 days and 5 nights when they got to me and took me up. 1,100 of us went into that ocean. 316 got out. Yep. 1945, June 29th. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Quint has just finished his story, and we are looking across the quiet night sea to the Orca, slowly circling in the night. The warm light in the pilot house, barely revealing the figures of the 3 men inside. The red and green running lights winking along the ship's flanks. We hear the distant boom and drawn-out hoot of a whale.
What the hell?
A whale out there.
There's a brief, eerie pause. Quint breaks the silence by muttering into song, which he slowly swells.
Farewell and adieu to you, Spanish lady. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we received orders to sail back to Boston, and never more shall we see you again.
Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I wanna go to bed. I had a little drink an
I
hour
had
ago.
lived about an hour ago, and it's
It's
gone straight to my head.
Wherever I may,
I may roam,
on land or
I
sea,
land or sea or foam.
you could always hear me singing a song.
This song, show me the way
to be home. Ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. Show me
the way to go
home. I'm tired, I wanna go.
I'm tired and I wanna go to bed.
I had a
little
drink about an hour ago
and it's
and
gone
it
right
went
to
through
my
my
head.
head.
Exterior ocean. The orca and its song in the night. In the foreground, the barrel and strobe light flash up into view, and behind them, the big dorsal fin surfaces and glides ominously towards the ship. Interior pilot house. The song is continuing, and we hear the barest hint of a scraping sound from the hull deep beneath the men. Quint's eyes abruptly narrow as his sensitive ears are the first to hear the abrasion of his ship. Things vibrate on the shelves. Quint stops singing. Hooper and Brody continue a duet. The scraping repeats, and Hooper now senses it. He drops out of the song, leaving Brody singing solo.
Start the engines.
As Brody hears this and is about to stop singing, the boat is suddenly bumped from below, and the gentle scraping turns to a violent assault somewhere on the understructure of the vessel. Water bubbles up into the hold. Brody starts and looks at the radio. He's about to move toward it when Quint's urgent instructions stop him.
He's busted the shaft. Start the pump.
Where?
The bilge pumps there.
He leaves Brody in the pilot house and runs onto the deck, grabbing his N1 rifle as he goes. Brody hits a switch and we hear the pumps starting. Hooper is on the flybridge starting the engines, but the diesels sound wrong.
Pump the engines.
Hooper does.
Rudder bearing?
The boat is assaulted again. Quint fires over the stern, emptying a clip into the water.
Get from forward. Watch for him.
Brody moves cautiously up to the bow.
Keep your eyes open, Mr. Hooper.
Hooper stands ready on the bridge, Quint racing at the stern deck.
Nobody sleeps. Nobody.
He jams a fresh clip into the M1. The men scan the seas around them. Ocean, wide on the Orca. The men in place, singing, the water sparkling towards the horizon, the stars twinkling above, the sound of a distant whale singing in counterpoint. The Orca, dawn. Brody is at the wheel on the flying bridge, while Hooper and Quint have a hatch up on the stern and are working together to repair the damaged rudder controls torn loose by the shark. Hooper is bucking the steel rod, while Quint is hammering away at the joint, trying to drive a new pin. The engine is idling. Bits of iron clutter the deck, along with a few rough, outsized tools and greasy rags and gaskets.
More left rudder. More. Left hand down now, Chief.
Brody tries to comply.
Let me get a better angle. Now.
Quint hammers again.
He's bent the housing. You can hear
And
it.
we can. The Orca's diesels are no longer smooth. Brody suddenly sees something and points. The barrel is surfaced directly ahead of them, just off the port side. They are drifting up to it.
The barrel!
A strobe light winks at them. Quint holds up a hand, quiet. Everything stops as they watch the barrel coming slowly up on them.
Him.
He takes a killing lance from the rack. Hooper gets a boat hook. Hooper leans out gingerly, snagging the barrel with the hook. It bobs lightly in the water, an innocent bystander. Hooper shifts his pole, takes hold of the rope, pulling it in.
Easy. Just want to goose him up. The minute he runs, drop or you'll lose your hands.
Hooper gets the line and starts hauling it up. No resistance. It comes easily over the transom into a coil on the deck. He and Quint exchange looks.
Here, gimme. I don't see what he's been doing.
Both men are draped over the side, their chins almost touching the water on the aft side. From the opposite starboard direction, fully unfastened from the barrel, comes the great white. First the fin, then the conical nose and the upper border of wide, grinning teeth. It knifes through the water in absolute silence, propelling itself with tremendous speed toward the unsuspecting men. Brody's instincts shine, as does his newly acquired sense of direction.
Shark! Starboard!
Hooper and Quint turn just in time, and a long spine stretch saves them from instant decapitation. The great white passes the transom, the harpoon still in its side and trailing 5 feet of chewed-off cable. It rolls on its side and looks at them as it passes. Past the stern, the huge tail lashes out, ripping the rope out of Quint's hands, shearing a huge swath through the paint, peeling it off like a plane, taking one of the bronze letters out of Orca. The shark begins an arc to sea, its fin cutting the water, and starts circling the boat. Quint notices his cut hand, palm bleeding, realizing just how close he came to losing it.
Haul in that rope, it'll foul us. Start the engine.
The diesels start with a terrible grinding.
Easy, it'll tear right out.
Jeffries, damn it.
Hooper slams the hatch, kicks the tools to one side, clearing the deck for action once again.
That's it. Radio in for help.
Shut up. Just pump her out.
Yeah, Captain, as soon as I make a call.
Brody heads for the radio in the pilot house. A perfectly terrible look comes over Quint. He raises up and starts after Brody. Brody disappears into the cabin. Quint pauses outside and sees Quint's lead-centered baseball bat. Quint's calloused hand grabs it up fiercely. Interior Radio Shack. Brody picks up the radio, flicking on knobs and lights on the complex console.
Beg your pardon.
Brody looks up in horror, covering his face. Quint brings down the bat with all the strength he can summon. Crash! Sparks fly, lights blink and go out. Plastic and sections of metal ricochet all over the cabin as Quint demolishes the ship-to-shore radio. Quint takes a happy breath, winks at Brody, and hands him the bat.
Excuse me.
Brody's adrenaline turns his fear into rage. His glasses are cracked or broken by flying pieces of radio. He seizes the bat and pounds the shattered radio for emphasis.
Some great idea. Now where are we? Some goddamn skipper you are. You're certifiable, you know that? You're a real treat. Certifiable. Bananas is what you are.
His tirade is interrupted by an urgent bellow from Hooper, pointing at the fin.
Oh, boys, he's back for his new feeding. He's coming right at us.
No. Coming right at us. At us. Slow ahead. You'll hit his head on. Slower. Throttle back. Head to port.
Hooper pulls the boat into a tight turn, and Quint has a shot at the upward rolling flank. He sinks it with careful precision.
Try shaking that out.
Brody emerges from the cabin as the rope zips overboard, and the barrel, changing over, catapults into the air before plunging into the ocean in a cloudy splash.
Did you get him in the head?
No, swing around. After him.
Hooper can see the fin racing ahead of the barrel, diving down, up again. Quint prepares another iron. Brody is digging in his bag. He comes up with his 2-inch .357 service revolver.
More gas. Go to half. Get me right alongside him.
The engine thuds and knocks. Suddenly, the barrel gongs onto the side of the Orca.
Watch it.
We can't rip it that high.
Hooper skillfully avoids the speeding rope.
Ah, attaboy.
Quint leans to one side, harpoon over his head. The great white breaks water and
Take two, they're small.
he sinks it deep. We hear shots. As the new rope whips out, Brody can be seen standing on the gunwale in regulation police combat pistol stance, holding his .357 in both hands, firing at the shark's head. Quint shakes his head in amused disbelief at this as the barrel goes over.
Don't shoot him anymore. He's crazy. He's crazy on his own blood already.
I can't stand here doing nothing.
Order in the court.
He has seen the two barrels pop to the surface.
Three'll do it. He's having trouble with two.
He yells to Hooper and Brody as he swings behind the controls.
Grab yourselves a couple of poles.
Quint steers slow ahead, engine protesting, as he maneuvers toward the moving barrels. Quint peers down, steering closer and closer.
Get ready. Now snag him.
Together, Brody and Hooper hook a barrel rope and hold on for dear life as the shark changes course.
Pull on the ropes and tie him on the transom. Free ride.
Brody and Hooper pull in with all their worth as Quint helps out by wheeling in a circle. He laughs to himself, enjoying the spectacle. Hooper secures the rope to a cleat, but allowing the barrel to hang overboard. Brody ties his now perfect bowline to the adjacent cleat. The boat is jarred violently from side to side as the underwater force of the great white jerks and heaves them to and fro, up and down, side to side. Hooper and Brody are both torn off their feet as the boat is thrust forward. On the flybridge, Quint sees
fired.
ahead. It's pulling the boat.
There's the idea. Here's a little reverse.
The shark leaps partially out of the water, and the sight is both horrifying and awesome. Its jaws break water, snapping at the ropes that have him snarled and frustrated. Quint throws the orca into neutral and shuts down.
On it. The prop.
With that, Quint slides down to the prow, putting another shaft onto his gun, finding satisfaction in its heft and balance. The shark can be seen directly ahead, threshing closer.
Now untie him quick. He'll tear us to pieces.
He fires the iron, and the shark veers downward in a gushing shower of spray. Hooper and Brody are trying to untie from the cleats, but both ropes are stretched too taut. They jump out of the way, falling flat on the deck as the ropes sweep over them, knocking over objects, skeetering across the deck. A tight jerking motion, and the orca is dragged through the water, backwards, and much too fast. Water splashing up over the transom in its backward wake. The engines groan and complain.
I'm headed far away. He's too big.
Wrenched to one side, Quint is knocked from his feet, close on the two cleats. A moment of slackness, and then a great surge of raw strength. The rope snaps the cleats off, screws and splintered wood spraying, and the barrels fly over the water. They disappear beneath the turbulent gray surface. The three men, breathing heavily, bruised and pouring sweat, look out at the blank water. Pop, pop, pop. 1, 2, 3, the barrel surface, ready for more.
He can't go so deep, not with all those on him.
Brody looks down at his feet. There's salt water up to their shoe tops.
What about us?
Have to pump her steadies all.
The barrels start a wide circle. Each cuts through the water, pushing a wave before it and leaving a wake behind.
Follow him. You start pumping out here.
Quint tosses Brody the hand pump, then picks up his M1 and checks the load.
He's heading under.
No way, he can't.
The barrels approaching the orca dip below the surface. 1, 2, 3.
Where'd he go?
Brody looks around. Hooper on the flying bridge, searching in all directions. Quint is looking more appalled every second.
He can't stay down with 3 barrels on him. Where is he?
Have you ever had one do this?
No.
Booming thud at the keel. Brody slides on the wet deck and Quint loses his footing, falling into Brody's arms. With Hooper on the flybridge, it seems the only place out of reach of the shark. Quint climbs up, Brody following him, reloading his pistol. Just then, the barrels pop up ahead, veered left, and duck under.
Follow him.
Under.
There.
The barrels have surfaced, and we see the monster's shadow sliding under the orca, seemingly endless, violent scraping sounds.
He's trying to sink us.
Get us started. Zigzag.
Quint is grimly silent. Brody senses that Quint is in the fight of and for his life. The orca taking evasive action. But the three barrels are closing the gap, the engines coughing and missing, destroying themselves with every rotation of the damaged shaft.
He's chasing us. I don't believe it.
Full throttle. Support.
On the bridge, Hooper is jamming the throttle forward, but the engine is pounding and knocking wildly. The barrels circle and move in. Quint has his rifle ready.
Hold her.
He leaps to his gear, trying desperately to get his dart gun. Just then, the shark attacks, breaking water and rising over the boat like a rocket. Snout, jaws, pectoral, fins, belly, falling sideways. A vast spray drenches the men. Quint fires into the belly, the bullets pocking the smooth whiteness.
Keep him there. Keep him.
The orca shudders from side to side. From Hooper's point of view, we can see the shark gripping the transom in his jaws, shaking the boat as he saws his massive head from side to side, trying to tear a chunk out of the very hull. Quint has reloaded and is firing into the fish. Brody has a wicked pointed gaff and is swinging wildly at the snout, gashing and gouging it, trying for the eyes. The killing lust is on all three men.
Throttling back.
The boat surges. The shark gives a final unbalanced wrench and disengages. The dorsal fin circles off, beginning a wide loop around the boat. The engine quivers and dies. The boat without power, rolling half awash, a wounded victim. The fin dips. The barrels follow. The shark disappears beneath the waves. There is complete silence. In the dead quiet, we can hear the lap of waves against the hull, the hoarse panting breathing of the three men, the pings and pops of the cooling, dying engines.
What could that gun of yours do?
Powerhead with 20 cc's of 20 cc's of Syndrite, Nerite, powerful tranquilizer. If I could hit him, I could kill him. But I gotta be close. Very close.
You gotta be in the water.
On deck, later, Quint and Hooper are assembling the shark cage, its shiny bars the only undamaged things on deck. Brody is working too, bolting the sections together.
Read the cable to the eyebolts.
The men are speaking in near whispers, quiet in the silence that surrounds them. Hooper is in his wetsuit, adjusting weights, mask, tanks, etc. The cage is standing in the stern. Quint runs a line from the gin pole to the roof section, and Hooper climbs in through the top.
Take me up.
Brody cranks the winch, hoisting Cage and Hooper into the air. Quint balances the gin pole lines, Hooper crouching in the cage, examining it for stresses. Satisfied, he holds out his hand. Quint puts the spear gun into it. Hooper in the cage examines his weapon, checking the power load, with the big, wicked-looking syringe head uncapped to reveal its razor point.
Lower away, Chief. Then try and keep him off until I'm under.
Hooper inside, looking out the bars of the cage, gives Brody a reassuring smile, then pops his mouthpiece between his teeth and checks his regulator. Brody steps back and, with Quint guiding the cage, begins lowering it off the gin pole boom arm into the sea alongside the boat. Brody and Hooper stare at each other as their faces pass, Hooper sliding down into the cold, gray ocean. As Hooper disappears beneath the surface, Quint and Brody exchange a long look between them. Underwater, Cage is submerging. The sky, horizon, waterline, clean, fresh sea air, then the magnificent inner spaces, with bubblers sparkling in front of us. Hooper in the cage as he floats to 20 feet, continually looking around by degrees. He removes the rubber guard from the needle and waits. Brody and Quint's turning heads tell us that the barrels are still circling. Suddenly, both heads stop turning. In the sea, the barrels have come to a stop. Delicately, they change course and meander toward the lowered cage. Underwater, Hooper's back is to us. He's just now completing a visual sweep and turns, eyes front into close-up, and fixes wildly on something monstrous and fascinating. The water is clear, shafts of sunlight streak downward in the blue. From the deep gloom, diving slowly, smoothly, comes the shark. It moves with no apparent effort, sinuous beyond comparison. As it nears the cage, it turns, and its ghastly length passes right in front of him. First the snout, then the jaw, slack and smiling, then the black eye. Hooper tentatively reaches out. It's too far for the strychnine pole. The vinyl flesh is pocked with bullet holes, iron scars, gaffing hooks, and strange open wounds that tinge the passing currents with pink. The trailing barrels gong and scratch the keel of the orca above. Brody and Quint leap back. The shark has vanished into a cloud of rising silt. Hooper, expecting the shark to attack out of that same general direction, braces himself, pole extended through the bars, breathing faster, straining his eyes into the gloom, and you see the shark attacking from behind him. The cage is sent careening. Hooper grabs the bars for dear life. The shark has grabbed the steel struts in its brutal jaws, shaking the cage relentlessly from side to side, bending the bars like clothes hangers. Hooper's trapped. The shark withdraws to get some running room, then charges again. The bleeding snout thrusts deeper into the yawing bars, the jaws snapping and twisting, 2 feet from Hooper's torso, the tail thrusting it forward. Hooper drops the strychnine pole between the bars, and it tumbles slowly toward rapture deck. All the shark needs is one more good thrust before separating Hooper at the waistline. In frantic bubbles, Hooper fumbles with the overhead hatch cover, kicking up and out of the cage. The shark backpedals with its tail, but the broad head won't shake loose. Hooper rushes downwards after the strychnine pole. The shark twists free of the cage and arrows downward after Hooper. Hooper nearly recovers the pole. Again, it slips from his frightened grasp, and this time disappears into a narrow abyss. Hooper turns and looks up. The great white is lunging at him, 20 feet above. One of the barrel ropes snakes around the cage rope and pulls taut. Turning to meet the monster, which, though held back for a moment by the snarled rope, now surges forward. The orca is listing dangerously aft, the gin pole bent almost to the breaking point. Brody is in a frenzy trying to haul up the cage. Quint attaches the end of Brody's rope to a hand winch. The gin pole is splitting.
Let go of it!
The pole gives way, the rope whipping down on the gunwale. The pulling of the tonnage below is tipping the orca, dragging it, but Quint won't give up the winch. Brody hauls on the rope barehanded. Hooper maneuvering downward, away from the jaws. Suddenly, the crazed shark veers upward for the surface. Surface, Quint. The winch is working faster now, Quint demonically winding it in. The crushed cage bangs against the hull, then breaks water. Brody is horrified. The cage is empty.
He's coming up!
He's taking him.
The shark breaks water right beside the orca, rising with a great whooshing noise. It rises vertically, towering overhead, blocking out the sun. The pectoral fins seem to reach forward. The shark, in all of its monstrous glory, falls onto the stern of the boat with a shattering crash, narrowly missing Quint and Brody. It drives the stern underwater. The ocean pours in over the transom. The jaws snap from side to side. Brody flounders backwards away from it. Brody is clinging to the mast for dear life as the ship begins to tilt to stern and everything starts to break loose around him. Nightmare angle, deck of the Orca. The giant jaws are snapping ferociously at everything. Great chunks of wood torn out of the deck and superstructure. Deck chair, irons, rope, gear, beer cans, bottles, Brody's bag, all are food for the insatiable maw blindly churning away. Quint is clinging next to a rack of lances. He is enraged at this ultimate violation of his territory. He snatches up a lance and hurls himself at the shark with a wordless bellow. The great head weaves side to side. The deck is at a treacherous incline, slippery with blood and seawater. Quint's footing falters and slips. He stumbles at the mouth of hell. The big teeth seize him and snap. Quint's roar of rage and pain is choked off as his body is clamped between the grinding, sawing teeth. And his head and legs suddenly contort as the shark's teeth meet across his torso. Blood gushes onto the deck. The remnants of his body tumble from the shark's mouth. Brody sees the horror, hears the screams. In his desperation, he tears loose one of Hooper's remaining air tanks and hurls it at the monster. It tumbles into the bloody well, wedging across the back of the mouth, the thick steel blocking the cruel jaws. The shark's head shakes even more violently, trying to clear the cold iron, but the tank is in to stay. Deck of the Orca is listing badly. And to avoid sliding into the jaws, Brody scrambles on the tilting deck, bracing himself in the cabin door to avoid pitching down into the bloody mouth. He fights his way into the cabin, already a shambles. Below him, on the deck, the shark lunges again, shifting weight so that the boat is now stern down and listing to the side. Water from the sea pours into the cabin. Another lunge by the shark. The huge snout and jaws slam up against the doorframe, blocking escape. Bloody, gnashing. More seawater. To stay in the cabin is to go down with the ship. Brody clambers as far from the shark as he can against the forward wall of the pilot house. He sees the window Hooper used before. It's blocked by barrels and debris. He breaks the side window highest above the water, edges out onto the battered bridge. The shark rolls around, now half in the water. The ship is sinking. The sea is not a viable alternative. Brody climbs up into the flying bridge. The shark is still lunging and snapping. Brody is forced to climb higher and higher as the ship slowly sinks beneath him. Brody scrambles for his life onto the flying bridge, sees the rifle there and seizes it. Brody, looking down at the stern, is bracing himself, aiming the rifle, taking a bead on the steel tanks, the silver gleaming in the shark's bloody mouth. He fires and fires again. Bullets shatter the shark's teeth, punching holes in the dripping snout.
Smile, you son of a bitch!
The muffled boom, the perfect symmetry of the shark is suddenly blown apart in a geyser of steel and blood as Brody's shot hits the pressurized tank. A 30-foot cloud of water, steel, shark, and debris covers the sky. A gigantic convulsion hurls the great white's mangled body into the sea. The Orca slowly begins to turn over in its death roll. Hooper emerges from beneath the surface, raises his mask, spits out his mouthpiece, and kicks toward Brody. Surface, Brody, and Hooper. Brody is holding on to a cushion, barely afloat. Relieved the shark is dead, yet stunned to see Hooper is still alive. The two men share weak laughter, which soon trails off.
What?
No.
You think that we got?
You think we can get back with those?
Oh, yeah, probably.
They swim through the debris, using 2 barrels as floats, as dozens of seagulls feast on shark remains on the surface.
What day is this?
Wednesday. No, Thursday, I think.
Good.
Maybe Tuesday.
Even better. Because I think the tide's with us.
Just keep kicking.
You know, I used to hate the water.
Gee, I wonder why.
The two tiny, miserable heroes swim ashore as the credits roll, fade out,